On March 11, 2011, Japan was struck by its most powerful earthquake, triggering a massive tsunami that devastated the coastline and claimed nearly 20,000 lives. Despite the nation's advanced technology, the wave was too powerful for their defenses to handle. Yet Japan didn't simply rebuild. Instead, they introduced an unexpected solution to protect their shores from future disasters. How did they accomplish this? The answer is a remarkable tale of survival, innovation, and resilience, one that many are unaware of. Taro, a small fishing town, faces constant danger from tsunamis. The locals rely on the sea for their survival, yet their town has been struck by tsunamis 4 times. To protect it, a double seawall was built, stretching 1.5 miles and rising 33 feet. Known as Bandri no Chojo, this seawall became a global model for tsunami defense. The town held yearly drills, and during the tsunami from Chile's 1960 earthquake, no one in Taro lost their life. In 2003, Taro declared itself a disaster preparedness town, teaching residents how to handle tsunamis. But in 2011, a massive 39 to 49-foot tsunami breached part of the seawall, claiming 181 lives. Tragically, some residents climbed the wall, thinking they were safe from the wave. In contrast, the town of Fudao survived due to a 49-foot seawall built in the 1980s, once thought wasteful. However, many other seawalls, including the largest in Kamishi City, failed to protect. In Kamishi, the waves broke through, and the seawalls may have even contributed to the death toll by giving people a false sense of safety. If you lived in a coastal town like Taro, would you trust the seawall to protect you, or would you have a plan to evacuate? Let's discuss it in the comments. But if a town like Taro, with its massive seawall and thorough preparedness, couldn't withstand the tsunami, what could Japan do next to protect its people? Seawalls can save lives, but only if the tsunami doesn't exceed the expected size and strength, which is impossible to predict. Without knowing how powerful the next tsunami will be, true safety remains uncertain. But are there other solutions? After disasters, cities are often rebuilt in unexpected ways. Many areas are relocating further inland or raising buildings to protect from future floods. In places like Anagawa, Miyagi Prefecture, new structures are being built on artificial plateaus. These raised areas serve as safe islands during floods. Around 40% of vulnerable towns have already moved or are planning to move important buildings like schools and hospitals inland or to higher ground. After the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake, many government buildings were flooded and couldn't function as disaster response centers, showing the need for safer locations. Moving inland and elevating cities seems like a practical solution, but is there a way to make the buildings themselves more resistant to nature's power? Japan's engineers came up with a groundbreaking answer. The federal government has recommended relocating buildings from high-risk zones, and Japan often moves things to safer ground. For example, in April 2024, F-15J fighter jets were relocated due to a tsunami threat. While this might seem odd, it's actually a smart safety measure. Another way to protect against natural disasters is by reinforcing buildings. In seismic engineering, it's said that earthquakes don't kill people, buildings do. Engineers have developed solutions like shock absorbers in skyscrapers and spring or ball bearing systems that let buildings sway separately from their foundations. Technology keeps changing how buildings are designed. In Osaka, a building is reinforced with a seismic isolation system. In Tokyo, Shimizu Corporation has used an old earthquake-resistant column from a traditional wooden house in Miyama. A more recent innovation involves anchoring buildings to the ground, like the 2016 Komatsu Company headquarters, which used carbon fiber cables. This system works like a tent. When one part tilts, the cables tighten, reducing shaking and preventing collapse during a major earthquake. Despite all these efforts to strengthen buildings, Japan remains on high alert, and with seismologists warning of a much larger disaster ahead, the question is, will these measures be enough? Before we continue, I have a quick 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help in any way, please hit the notification bell and subscribe. It really helps this channel, and if you do, I'll work even harder to make this show better for you. Deal? Japan is actively preparing for potential disasters, especially those related to seismic activity. In August 2024, some areas in western Japan were hit by seismic tremors, prompting both local and national authorities to take swift action. While the government later lifted most of the warnings and no major damage occurred from the 7.1 magnitude earthquake, the country remains on high alert for future seismic events. Seismologists predict that a mega-earthquake could strike the Nankai Trough, potentially becoming one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. Although there is uncertainty about when this might occur, experts warn that such a disaster could happen within the next few decades. The Nankai Trough is a subduction zone, a region where tectonic plates collide, stretching over 430 miles. Subduction zones are known for producing strong earthquakes, with major events like the Great Chilean Earthquake of 1960 and the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquakes happening in similar areas. The last major quakes in the Nankai Trough occurred in 1944 and 1946, both with a magnitude of 8.1, causing severe destruction in Japan. Based on the patterns of these past events, studies indicate a 70 to 80% chance of a significant earthquake occurring in the Nankai Trough in the next 30 years. While this information is widely known, some areas built after the 2011 tsunamis still lie in flood-prone regions, requiring ongoing safety measures. With the threat of a mega-earthquake looming in the Nankai Trough, Japan realized it needed an even stronger defense. Their solution? A massive wall stretching for miles along the coastline. Japan is constructing a massive seawall, known as the Great Japanese Wall, stretching 246 miles from Aomori to Fukushima prefectures. At its highest points, it reaches 51 feet and is expected to cost about $12.740 billion. This seawall is designed to protect against future tsunamis and also serves as a memorial to the communities affected by the 2011 disasters. The Great Wall is much larger and stronger than older barriers, with wider foundations and reinforced inner walls to resist stronger waves and avoid collapse. It stands taller than previous seawalls, which were only 6 to 13 feet high. The design has been updated to account for mega-earthquakes, and improvements have been made to evacuation plans and warning systems. Unlike regular seawalls, the Great Wall is built to withstand level 2 tsunamis, which are less common but far larger. The goal is to delay these waves, giving people more time to escape, potentially saving lives during the 2011 disaster. A giant seawall may seem like the perfect defense, but not everyone is convinced. Could this massive barrier be doing more harm than good? Aside from building walls, there's little else that can be done to protect against tsunamis. High walls around vulnerable coastlines might help, but they aren't welcomed by everyone. While most coastal residents support the wall for their safety, some worry it will sever their deep connection to the sea, which has been central to their identity and livelihood for generations. While they understand the wall's purpose in protecting them from future tsunamis, some fear it will change how they relate to the sea. For generations, coastal communities have made their living from the sea, and they've found a sense of belonging in it. They are accustomed to seeing the ocean from their windows and feel a sense of loss without it. In some areas, the barriers rise as high as 4 stories, blocking the view and making people feel cut off. Other concerns revolve around the impact on tourism, which could hurt local economies. But beyond the usual worries about obstructed views and loss of connection, there's another serious issue. In the event of another massive earthquake, people might not notice signs in the sea, such as unusual shifts in behavior or draining, which typically signal an approaching tsunami. This could delay their response and preparations. Additionally, some believe that the ultra-high seawalls might make the situation worse. These massive barriers could act like a dam, and if the wall doesn't hold up under the tsunami's force, the flood that follows could be even more destructive. In the village of Akama, fisherman Hiromi Kawaguchi was able to convince most of the residents to oppose the construction of the giant wall. Despite losing his wife, mother, and grandson in the 2011 tsunami, he doesn't believe the new wall will protect them if another wave strikes. He says, "In the last tsunami, the old wall was destroyed and its remains were left floating, making it useless. Everything man-made is vulnerable. It's unavoidable." Japan is not only preparing for the next major disaster, it's also shaping the future of survival technology. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. In one village, the residents didn't just question the wall, they rejected it entirely. But why did they turn down protection? One argument against the wall is that it could create a false sense of security. People might believe they are safe, causing them to delay evacuating and putting themselves at greater risk. Critics also argue that the $17 billion spent on building the wall could have been better used elsewhere. For example, that money could have been invested in relocating communities to safer areas. Some experts estimate it would take Japanese taxpayers 25 years to fully cover the cost of the seawall. In fact, one village even managed to stop the construction altogether. This took place on Oshima, the largest inhabited island in the Tohoku region, known for its natural beauty and charm. The island has a tight-knit community, and many residents oppose the decision to build the wall there. If the wall isn't the perfect solution, then what about its environmental impact? Scientists have raised concerns, and their findings might just surprise you. The islanders were largely skeptical about the idea of a massive seawall to protect against tsunamis. They managed to convince the prefecture to adjust plans for the 39-foot-high wall originally proposed for one of the beaches, opting instead for a wooden promenade at a neighboring beach. In the end, a seawall was constructed, but at a lower height and in a way that better aligned with the local community's preferences. While the local population's views on the seawall are clear, what do ecologists think about such a massive structure? Opinions are divided. Some experts worry that the wall could harm the coastal environment by disrupting the natural interactions between the sea and the shore. It could affect sediment movement, coastal erosion, water currents, and nutrient flow, all of which are crucial for maintaining biodiversity. Furthermore, certain nocturnal wildlife that typically visits the beach may alter their habits due to changes in the environment. Over time, these shifts could create challenges for specific species. So, if static walls present such problems, is there a smarter, more adaptable solution? Japan's engineers believe so, and they have created an innovation that could change the game. Japan is taking impressive steps to shield itself from the devastating effects of tsunamis, and one of the most remarkable innovations is the creation of a movable seawall. This unique system includes gates positioned at the entrance of a port, which close during inactive times, like at night or on holidays. When the gates are raised, the difference in water levels inside and outside the port generates electricity. This energy is stored and used to operate the gates in the future, making the system both efficient and multifunctional. The idea came from researchers at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, and it holds significant promise for regions vulnerable to tsunamis triggered by earthquakes along the Nankai Trough. Beyond providing protection, this system can also produce excess energy, which could power ports in the event of outages, something that often happens during natural disasters. To put the potential of this movable seawall into perspective, consider that Japan has 2,780 fishing ports and 993 commercial and industrial ports, all of which require protection. The challenge is that each port would need its own system, which would require a massive investment. What's especially groundbreaking is that, to date, no system in the world uses movable seawalls to generate electricity and use that energy to power it. This is truly a pioneering innovation. Now it's just a matter of getting the system fully operational. While Japan strengthens its defenses, the ocean continues to carry a chilling reminder of the 2011 disaster, wreckage that has drifted thousands of miles. But where did all of this debris ultimately end up? After the powerful earthquake in March of 2011, which struck Japan's northeastern coast and triggered a massive tsunami, about 20,000 lives were tragically lost. The waves also carried entire buildings into the ocean. This devastating event had a profound impact on Japan, but the aftermath didn't end there. The wreckage from the disaster traveled over 4,000 miles across the northern Pacific Ocean, drifting for 14 months. Eventually, some of this debris reached Alaska, where residents began noticing floating buoys, plastic bottles, and pieces of foam washing ashore from Japan. Other items washed up along the coast of Canada, including an entire motorcycle. Experts estimated the amount of debris at around 1.5 million tons. Cleaning it all at once was nearly impossible, and it took years to recover what remained of the Japanese structures. Among the debris in the Pacific, people discovered all sorts of items, from refrigerators to construction materials, and even soccer balls. If Japan's tsunami defenses have caught your attention, just wait until you see what they have planned next. Hit that like button if you love seeing cutting-edge disaster solutions. Amid the destruction, one lone survivor stood tall, a tree that defied all odds. But what made this single pine a symbol of resilience? On March 11th of 2011, a devastating natural disaster struck the city of Rikuzen, Takata. Like many coastal areas, the city was ravaged by waves reaching up to 43 feet, resulting in widespread destruction and loss of life. Among the wreckage, only a few buildings in the city's center remained intact. Amid the devastation, one tree, known as the Miracle Pine, remained standing. According to the city's mayor, this tree became a powerful symbol of strength and hope for recovery. In 2013, efforts to preserve this iconic tree were launched, not by restricting public access, but by reinforcing it for future generations. A metal frame was inserted into the trunk of the 250-year-old pine, which stood 89 feet tall, and artificial branches and leaves made of synthetic resin were added. After online discussions about the project's cost, it was decided that donations from Japan and abroad would fund the restoration. The goal of raising 150 million yen, almost $1 million, was successfully met. Alongside this preservation, a disaster prevention park was planned for the area, with the Miracle Pine as its centerpiece. For an entire year, the tree was illuminated nightly as a tribute to those who lost their lives. While nature left behind an unforgettable symbol of resilience, the ancestors of coastal communities left another, a centuries-old warning stone. But did the people heed this ancient advice? Along the northeast coast of Japan, in the village of Anoshi, there is a 10-ton stone tablet bearing an ancient warning for the locals. The message carved into the stone reads, "High dwellings ensure the safety and well-being of future generations. Remember the impact of past tsunamis. Avoid building homes below this point." These tsunami stones are scattered along Japan's coastline, serving as reminders for people to seek higher ground after earthquakes, which can trigger large waves. Add that to the climate change problem, particularly when people are torn from their homes for hurricanes and tornadoes recently. Many of these stones date back to around the year 1896, following two major disasters that resulted in a significant loss of life. Despite these ancient warnings, some of the messages were neglected over time as coastal towns expanded and residents placed more trust in the seawalls built by the government. However, in certain areas like Anoshi, local communities continue to follow these historical guidelines. Not only do they preserve the messages, but they also educate children in schools about the importance of these warnings. Yet, learning from history is still a challenge. For instance, 4 years after the tsunami of 2011, approximately 230,000 people were still living in coastal areas. Tsunami warning stones have stood for centuries, but should we be paying more attention to this ancient wisdom, or is modern technology sufficient to keep us safe? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. While learning from history is vital, adapting for the future is equally important. Japan is even redesigning something as simple as an elevator to help save lives in times of crisis. Sounds strange? Let me explain why it makes perfect sense. When you think of elevators, what comes to mind? For many, it's simply a quick way to get between floors with a hint of claustrophobia thrown in. But what if I told you the idea of elevators might soon change forever, especially in Japan? The Japanese Ministry of Infrastructure is considering adding restrooms and water sources in elevators. This innovative idea could vastly improve the functionality of elevators, providing more comfort and safety for passengers, especially in emergencies. This isn't just a proposal for ultra-tall skyscrapers. It could become the new standard for multi-story buildings, particularly in earthquake-prone regions like Japan. In places where seismic activity is common, every detail matters when it comes to safety and convenience. You might think these additions are designed for busy professionals who want to take care of essential tasks without stepping out of their offices. However, the real reason behind this idea is linked to the frequent earthquakes in Japan. During disasters, people can sometimes be trapped in buildings, waiting for hours or even days for rescue. If I had an elevator like that at home, I'd probably add an extra hour of sleep and take care of all my daily needs right there. Maybe throw in a shower and a coffee machine for good measure. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly makes a difference. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now. I guarantee you'll find it just as fascinating. Let us know in the comments which country you'd like us to explore next. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining us. Leave a comment, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting videos. See you in the next video.